All right, you're all set.
Thank you. Good morning. Welcome everybody to the Thursday, June 20th meeting of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee of the Tompkins County Legislature. And with us today are legislators Susan Currie, Randy Brown, Greg Mezey, Mike Lane. Remotely, Shauna Black is joining us today as well. We've got a fairly lengthy agenda, and we'll stick to that as best we can. I know Randy has got to leave a little bit early. Are there any changes to the agenda? None noted. We'll go to public comment. Several here this morning. Let me start with Herb Engman from the town of Ithaca, who has filed a blue paper with us.
Good morning. I'm here representing the Forest Home Improvement Association, and our current president could not be here, Charlie Troutman, so he asked if I, as the immediate past president, would come. On your agenda today is the further discussion of the Craddock Lane, Pleasant Grove Road intersection. It appears that the decision has basically been made on this. We would point out that the roundabout option is spoken of very highly in the report that you received. And indeed, the state says that when you're considering an intersection, a roundabout should be a top priority. And the Forest Home Improvement Association does continue to support a roundabout at that location. I won't get into the specifics because it's all in the report and you can see all the advantages of a roundabout. That said, I think we need to start looking toward the future and what we can do to improve safety for the residents in Forest Home. Right now, parents do not allow their children out to walk or bike in Forest Home, and this is a residential community. The reason is it's too dangerous. We have no sidewalks, and we could have, but it'll take something to make them happen. So we'd like to start thinking about how we can work together to improve the safety. We've done it before. When I was town supervisor, we built a sidewalk from Hanshaw Road up Warren to the schools, and that, of course, was along the county road. When the county redid Hanshaw, we built a sidewalk all the way from Sapsucker Woods Road all the way into Cayuga Heights. Cayuga Heights joined with us to make 3 partners to complete that sidewalk. We did that because kids were riding bikes in the road, and that's just too dangerous. And so we made it much, much safer up in that quadrant for people. And it's used very, very heavily. So and the other walkway we built was from Route 366 up to Maple Ave in anticipation of Cornell developing East Hill Plaza. Well, you know, it's been, what, 10, 15 years. They haven't developed it yet or redeveloped it. But we built it in anticipation of that happening because we could see a lot of foot traffic. And even now, there's a lot of bikes and people walking on that walkway. So we would like to encourage all of us to get together and make things safer in Forest Home. And it can be done. It's just a matter of focusing on it and getting the resources to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Herb. We will be hearing a report later in the agenda on that project, or proposed project, and we'll certainly be taking these comments into account. We also have Doug and Bruce Britton with us remotely this morning. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Should I go first?
Yeah.
I'll go first. Thank you. We're happy to see you all again today. And I imagine you're getting tired of seeing us and hearing about the same Craddock Farm Pleasant Grove intersection realignment. A concern we raised before was that the contract for the BNL study restricted recommendations to being within the right-of-way. Now you have the study. There is, as Herb said, there's strong support for a roundabout. Meeting a couple of weeks ago, we asked Alex, the study's author, if the intersection if the intersection were realigned, what would be the safest way to do it? He said clearly it's a roundabout, but the study's conclusion is to leave the intersection as it is. And that's due to, in part, because the contract said they had to, in part because of land acquisition costs, and in part because of construction costs. And if this were a municipal project, those would be legitimate concerns, but it's a Cornell project. The land is available. Cornell has set money aside for intersection reconstruction. I think it's $2.5 million. You can get a safer intersection free, or almost free. And I would say, just, let's do it. And I guess don't want to take your time if you've got a busy schedule, but Doug, you wanted to.
As soon as the chair recognizes.
You're recognized, Doug.
Thank you. Hi. Yeah, just a little bit background. Talking about the same thing. Back in 2019, the Cornell came to the town planning board for consideration of its North Campus residential expansion. And as part of the approval, there was a condition that Cornell realign the Creative Farm Pleasant Grove intersection. Cornell agreed to it. In fact, they're the ones who recommended it as a condition. And they wanted to build it after the dorms. And the town said, that's fine as long as we have a guarantee that the intersection will be realigned. We don't want you coming back in a couple of years and saying, oh gosh, we'd love to do it, but the county won't let us. Or, we need an ironclad guarantee. No one can back out. So that's where the MOU came from. That's the guarantee that as long as the dorms are built, the road will be realigned. And Cornell started building its dorms and fulfilling its obligations under the MOU. They hired a consultant to start looking at intersection designs. Things were doing fine until Cornell had its dorms occupied, and then boom, the process stopped. And then, amazingly, some people started saying, well, why don't we let Cornell off the hook? They didn't meet the requirements, they didn't meet the conditions, but why don't we say that's okay? And a few of us pointed out, is it really okay? Are you going to waive conditions for everyone who doesn't meet them? Or is it just Cornell? And so, okay, fine. We'll get it going again. And then Shauna, bless her heart, said, okay, we have to hire somebody else, independent consultant, come in. If Cornell has stopped, we have to get it started somehow. So that's where this, what wound up as the B&L report came from. And it was supposed to be independent, as Bruce pointed out, it wasn't. And it's, amazingly, now we have people who are once again saying, oh, why don't we let Cornell off the hook? Except now, instead of saying it's okay to let them not fulfill their obligations, they're saying, well, maybe it's even better to have them not fulfill their obligations, because we have a report that the conclusion was written into during the contract that says, oh, you won't realign the intersection, and that's fine with Cornell. And there are people who are even claiming that oh, it won't work anyway. Well, how do you know that? We don't have any proof. There have been no modeling of how changing that intersection design would change traffic flow or distribution or where it went. We, meaning all of us, all of you, don't have any better information than the planning board did when they made the requirement. So I think the thing to do is to respect the planning board's authority. They did everything right. To respect the MOU, to respect intermunicipal cooperation, and go ahead and do what you're supposed to do, and I think it will work out fine. And I think if a roundabout is built there, it would be such a beautiful entrance for Cornell that everyone's going to try to take credit for it. So I would just hope that you do not just cancel this and run away, but fulfill your obligations. And thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Doug and Bruce, thank you for your comments. We will take these into consideration. I do want to mention that an email was shared with the committee also from a constituent, Carolyn Arms, encouraging us to continue to work on safety for pedestrians and cyclists in the Forest Home area. And as mentioned, we will be hearing a report just a little further into the agenda. You're welcome to stay with us and view the report as we hear it. And the committee has received a very extensive study that we've been working through here for several days. So we'll come back to that. Thank you. Is there any other public comment? None? Okay. Chair's report. We're going to hear a little bit on the budget process as it's rolling out for later into the meeting. Power forms are coming forward to us. I do just want to send my thanks out to Jeff and the consultants from Barton and LaJudas for the public information meeting that was held in Groton on the West Cortlandt Street Bridge last month, and very informative, an ambitious project, and certainly appreciate your outreach to the community, because it's a major undertaking in the midst of a busy area when it moves forward. So thanks. Well done, Jeff. County Administrator's report.
Hi, thank you. I'm going to, well, first, I think we have Samantha Hilson here to give a report on the COVID-19 mural sketch. If I think, yep, great.
That would be fine. Hi, Samantha.
Okay, hi Norma, thank you. Hi everyone. I just wanted to come on briefly to give an update on this mural collaboration that we have with Office of the Aging to continue to use our COVID-19 funding that is coming to a cleose. So we selected artists, and there is an initial sketch that, well, actually it's not initial. We've gone through some iterations of it, and they hope to begin painting soon, like in the next 2 weeks. So I'm not sure what has been circulated or not, but I can share my screen, or perhaps it was circulated. I'm not sure.
I think it would be good for you to, if you can share your screen, Samantha, just to
Okay.
show. Yeah, that would be good.
Great. Let's try and do that. Okay, are you able to see that?
Yes.
Okay, so some changes have already happened, but overall we were looking for something very colorful and that would capture different elements that we had put into the original proposal. So there are different words at the top that will be incorporated, including well-being, resilience, community, health. There are elements of memorial, like candles burning. The clouds are representing some silver lining that have come about during the pandemic. There's imagery of a nurse giving vaccination, hands being held. This is one of our nurses who retired from the health department. She actually is not going to be included, the person in the foreground on the right side. And then under the Tompkins County Whole Health banner is a placeholder for a longtime educator in the community, Millie Clark Maynard, who we're hoping to have a persona of her in the mural. She was one of the first individuals to get vaccinated at the BJM pop-up clinic that we had during the early in the pandemic. And that's sort of where we're at. There probably will be some changes along the way, but overall, this is the concept from the artists.
Thank you, Samantha. It is colorful. Very nice. Any committee members' comments? Randy?
Yes, thank you. Do you have to get permission from people to put their likeness on a mural, or is that?
Yeah, so we're in communication, and hopefully it will work out. Sorry, I think I froze.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Samantha.
She just froze.
Can you still hear me though?
Looks like you froze there.
We could hear you, though, yes.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. Frozen.
Any further questions for Samantha? Well, we'll look forward to seeing the final design and product of that.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks. Norma, you're bringing
Fill out.
forward some project requests, approval forms?
On behalf of others, I'm not. They're not my project approval requests. Yeah, so I will go ahead and share my screen. I did send out, hopefully everybody received the updated versions of the PAR forms in email. Share my screen.
Are they different from the ones in the agenda, you're saying?
Yeah, yes. Shall we start? I know Jeff's here. I'll start with highway. Kind of scroll through. This is a highway machinery 5-year plan. This has come before the legislature the last few years, at least the last few years I've been here. You see that okay, or you want me to zoom in a little bit, or?
It looks okay from here. No?
Okay. It's a little harder to see. So this is the plan for the next 5 years. And I just did overview before we get into this too far. So the PAR forms are really a identifying cost, right? So it doesn't explain how they're getting paid for. It identifies the cost, and it recognizes the cost in the year that the project is supposed to begin. So with this, we're talking about equipment, but as we go along, just kind of keep that in mind. If we have a $30 million project, it's going to be showing in the year that it's intended to start, and then those costs will be spread out over a bonding period or.
Mike?
I know for some equipment, it used to be that municipalities could purchase it, use it for 2 or 3 years, and then put it on the market and recover almost their cost. I don't know whether that happens with the kinds of machinery we buy or not, or whether there are even state contracts for any of this.
Yeah, almost all of our equipment purchases are off a contract. Not so much OGS anymore, but we'll piggyback other large counties, Erie County, Oneida County, things like that. They must have large contracts in place with various vendors, and they're modeled very similar to older OGS contracts. So to answer that first, our cycle on, it does vary, but most of our specialized, I would say, pieces of equipment will keep longer than that. 8-10 years. Some of the units that we're suggesting to replace are much older than that on this request for next year. I don't have the actual years of those, but I know they're much old. A few of them are like early 2000s. I think that answers your question, the 2 pieces of it, yeah.
So there really isn't a secondary market that we could update quicker on some of this machinery and get and be working with new machinery more often?
Yeah, thank you for that. I forgot that part. Some of our lighter trucks are now handled through sustainability with Terry, and those do get cycled every few years. That was very true still. Our Actual dump trucks will hold value. They'll hold value well into the year 7, 8, 9, 10. So that you do get a large return. They do have a good amount of value left. Specialized pieces of equipment, even the ones that we're replacing normally on average will still have a pretty valuable trade-in. 25% of the purchase price would be a $200,000 unit will still easily be $25,000 to $50,000 trade. That's average.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to add too that in some cases, like for example, last year we did bond for some of these. So there is because there's I believe it's their 15-year because this equipment is, 20 years before they're replaced. I think most of the ones you have right now on your list are about 20 years old. So they do last a long time. And disposition has to be, we have to take that into consideration when we dispose of those vehicles. Let me go on to the next one. Okay.
I do have questions. Are the questions as we go or at the end? As we go, I want to, there's a lot,
I'd like
there's a lot of it.
I might not
There's like
remember.
10 or it's a simple question, I think. So I'm just trying to understand the highway machinery revenue. So do you have money set aside in the highway department for any of this? Is this all coming out of general funds, or where's this money coming from?
I think Norma spoke that it's not necessarily known at this point, but historically this has been bonded.
It's either been,
Paid for.
we've either used cash or we have bonded for it, yeah.
So in 2024, the number's 2.3 million or something like that. That's money that's already been aside in our budget?
I'm glad you asked that question. So when it says 2024 LTD, that's life to date. So it's not necessarily that we spent all that money in 2020. It's what we've spent up to
Okay.
20, okay.
And I see your
So,
2020.
but to answer your question, 2024 was bonded. Whether we do that for 2025 is still, we're still going to make, do some, after we get everything through the budget cycle, we'll figure out how those can get, or before we come to the expended budget committee, I should say, we'll have a proposal on how to pay for those.
Thank you.
Yep.
You're outlining for us a two-step process here. The projects are coming forward at this point, and then
Correct.
you're factoring them into the budgetary
That's
review
correct.
and submission to the legislature.
Yes, when that comes, that's one of the first things that comes to the legislature, expanded budget.
And there'll be an approval of a capital program
Correct.
in the process, and you'll be also updating the bonding and bond payments and so on.
Yeah, we'll be working with finance to
All of
figure
these
those out.
projects are kind of accumulating and coming forward.
Yeah, and we have a lot of building projects coming forward, so there's a lot to consider on how things are going to be paid for, whether we're raising taxes or we're using cash.
Thanks, Norma. Let you keep moving here.
All right, Fall Creek Road Bridge, Jeff, over Fall Creek.
Fall Creek Road is a triple box culvert. It's in design presently, as far as updates go. It is on the tip, so a large part of this will be paid for by the federal aid, and then it's 20% local sharing at this time. There is a cost share called Marchicelli, which is state funding, and it is still available, but they're working on, it's getting spread thin, and the state will usually offer that when it comes to the construction phase, which is the most expensive phase. So you carry it 80-20 through the preliminary phases, and then when it goes to construction, we would expect that there would be a state Marchicelli aid piece. It is in study phase, cultural resources, historic evaluation. That's kind of where the project is presently.
Mike?
Triple box culvert means there are up and downs. Is this relatively free of high-risk trees upstream that might plug it up?
There is periodic maintenance that requires us to go haul logs and the debris that are getting caught on the upstream side during high flows, for sure. Any of our crossings that are similar in nature to that it's expected. We look for it. This is a rehabilitation of a 25-year-old box, so it's not a full replacement. Although it looks like it's a large number, it would be much larger if it was a replacement at that span. The fact that it's a rehabilitation keeps the numbers in check. It still has a viable lifespan based off of the money that will be put into the box at this time. I think as we move forward someday and it does get replaced, it will likely be a span, but I don't even want to think about what the price tag will be on it. There are some provisions in this work to add protection for scour and stream bank protection to, if there were like a severe plug or something like that, that it should be okay. It's being designed to take that into account.
Okay, having gone through a flood where a lot of the bridges were and culverts were taken out by the trees that came down in that event, it's something we need to keep thinking about, because if we get a flood, it can take the bridge right, or the culvert right out, or leave it, or even worse, just leave it by itself standing in the middle of the river.
It just goes around the bridge, yeah. So everyone's aware also the guidance that we are following from DEC for the resiliency under the CLCP plan that the state set forth. We did check with our consultant who checked with DEC, and it'd be unlikely that they would look at this structure because it's modern and then force a larger opening, force a bridge. So we were trying to stay on pace with that, make sure that we didn't get caught halfway through the project and have to go a different direction.
Thanks.
I just want to note here too, while we're looking at this revenue line, you'll see where it says Interfund A. This is just an education piece. The Interfund A is really considered to be a local share and tends to be an increase on the tax levy, and or using cash, I should say. And then of course the other federal aid would be the aid that comes in that gets applied for to cover the project. But you'll see this throughout the capital program. Okay. Falls Road Bridge over to Gannett Creek.
Falls Road Bridge is a kind of a unique project, and we wouldn't normally be looking at it at this point because we have not received any Bridge New York funding, grant funding for this project. We do have information and Mike actually was the first one to let us know that it was selected as a first priority out of our MPO on a list to receive funding through the New York grant program. With that said, we expect to hear any time. We anticipate that the announcements for bridge award will be, we're getting the 2-week cycle now. Every time we ask, they say it'll be about 2 weeks. So it could happen anytime, and we do anticipate this being funded. Should something change in this project not receive funding, we would probably push it out. This has been on the capital plan for many years. It's just been in the out years. It's a necessary project, needs to be done, but it's a large project, and it's a really good project to receive outside source funding. So knowing that, we've been delaying it, and sounds like it was worth it, and we should be receiving funding. I hope I can share good news with you. If not, it will be getting pushed out off to future years of the capital plan.
Midline Road, yep. Culvert Bridge, Bridge New York.
Yep, Bridge New York Culvert Grant Award. It was awarded to us in the last round. It is in design at this time, and it's anticipated to go to construction next year.
this is the last one for the highway department. This is the road maintenance program that we've had for some time.
Yeah, this has really been a great thing for our department with creating a lot of flexibility. It's the very large reason that our road infrastructure is rating well and continuing to improve. We do use it for some concrete smaller boxes that we do in-house and things like that. It has been based on a 5-year program of escalation. We're in the 3rd phase of those 5 years, which is the 2.4 million, being a 5-year plan. And rather than see a drop in 2029, we did put a index of an additional 600,000 in there at the the $3 million mark. This program, just a step back, was 1.2 for 5 years, 1.8 for 5 years, and now we're in the final 5-year plan at 2.4. So the big change here is our hoping and seeing into the future that we didn't want to just put a 0 in the 2029 year. The only thing we added was that 3 million in there to see that program continue.
Jeff, you talked about some in-house projects. How are you with engineering capacity for in-house projects, or do you have to go outside?
We do for some portions or aspects of design for sure, but we're actually doing one right now on Conlin Road. Conlin Road was one of the 6 culverts awarded under the Bridge New York project that we pulled out because of cost escalation. We were progressing that project mostly in-house, but we did contract with consultant. Fisher is the consultant that we're working with to kind of do even though it's already designed by the state and their consultant, we hired them to do some cost analysis of that design and not start from beginning by any means, but because we're handling it in-house, there's a lot of less restrictions and less oversight that the state requires when we're doing a project by them. So we anticipate working through with our project managers and in-house, but working with a consultant for those important design aspects, and then also creating the proper drawings to go to bid and then have a bid done either off of our annual services contract where we have a bridge contractor that is awarded that, or we actually put it out to bid, let it out to bid. We're not sure yet, but we're planning on that being constructed next year. So to answer your question, yes, we do have to consult on some varying scales to get these smaller box culverts completed.
Yeah, I've been around long enough to remember when we had an engineering division and did a lot of the highway and building and other engineering. That was a good thing for the county. We don't have that anymore.
I've been told of that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. I think we had Roxanne and Josh are on for the airport.
Roxanne, are you with us?
Josh?
Yeah, we're here. We're both in my office. She's had some technical difficulties with the computer this morning.
We see you.
How you doing?
Good this morning. And you?
Oh, wonderful.
So we've been, I know that the airport, part of the reasons why we had to kind of redo some of these is the airport right up until like the last minute making some changes to these projects. So hopefully we've got all the changes included in the PAR form that you have in front of you. So can we start with the RFSRE building?
Yep. So this is something that we've been working on for a bunch of years now. It came up in a 139 inspection. Being that the vehicles that they require us to have are getting too large and we're pretty much running out of space. So they told us they did a couple grants to a feasibility study to see if we would need a new building. They came up with a size structure, and we've been working through funding and trying to see if we can afford it. So here's where we're at. We have some other funding opportunities. Of course, a lot of this stuff is paid for by the FAA. And the next couple of years, they're actually funding 95% of projects, so which is good for us in the long run. We would only have to pay 2.5% of, of the total amount.
That's where the changes came into the PAR forms from the FAA reauthorization bill. So for 25 and 26, as Josh was saying, the FAA is going to pay 95%. The state will pay 2.5%. And the airport/local chair/PFCs, however we work that in, will be 2.5% compared to 5%. So that'll be a big savings in 25 and 26.
And we did see this a month ago, I believe, when we had the report.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
Thanks. We appreciate that continued work on it. Randy?
Yes, thank you. Is this only for the snow removal equipment, and how many square feet is it?
No, it's going to be for all the fire apparatus and the snow removal equipment, and offices, so admin and everybody would be in the same building. It's 48,000 square feet.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, 48,000 square feet.
48,000 square feet.
But we're still tweaking that on trying to get as much of the eligibility portion of it. The more eligibility we have, the more the FAA will pay for. So it could change a little bit, but right now that's the current floor plan.
Okay. I appreciate the work you've done to get the outside grants and to keep the local costs down, but I'm just amazed at $22 million just to store this equipment when we're going to, a building we want to house people with is going to be twice that. So it's just a lot of money. I'm just amazed at how much money is spent on this stuff. But thank you.
We aren't talking, excuse me, may I speak?
Mike, yes.
I don't think we're talking like a cold storage building here. We're talking a building that is going to be, I assume, Josh, it's going to be climate controlled. It's going to have offices and other things in it.
Yeah, that's
Is that correct?
Yep, that's going to be part of the EOC grant that we got through the Air 99 grant from the state. So there's going to be a lot of infrastructure in that building as well. So,
You talked about eligibility. You're meaning functions that are eligible for federal monies to fund their being included in that project. Is that correct?
that's correct, yep.
Greg?
What happens to the current building in this plan?
So the plan is to try to reappropriate that so we can generate some non-airline revenue, maybe some cargo aircraft, or, we've talked about air medevac, looking for something. It's got to be aviation related due to the fact that the FAA has paid so much to this building. So we'd have to get approvals from them, but trying to find a leaseholder that can utilize the building to generate revenue for the airport, again, to bring more costs down.
Great, thank you.
The acquire SRE equipment, this is just a replacement plan. The FAA requires every 15 years to look into replacing snow equipment. The vehicle currently that we would be replacing with this project is 25 years old now. So it's just, we're a little bit behind due to the grants, and there was a hiccup because we only had one bidder when we bid this a few years ago. But yeah, just a replacement of a piece of equipment. And this is the same. This is to replace the 1988 structural vehicle. When we did the terminal project, it came to intuition that we should have something that can get out front and really the FAA says that we have to protect their assets. So when they pay a bunch of money into the terminal or the buildings that we have on the airfield, they want the on-site fire department to protect those assets. So this was something that came up in an inspection and moved forward through the ACIP program.
$2.4 million, Josh?
What's that?
2.4?
Yep. That's what the grant came in as, or the bids came in as.
And what's the federal share of that?
That'll be 90%.
90. Thank you.
So the canopy, that has been, something that came up that was replaced during the terminal expansion. Josh asked me to talk about this because it's just a bone of contention for him. So it was part of the UAI grant. We replaced the canopy. Well, the canopy's been having some problems with snow coming off of it, and it's really not factored for upstate New York weather. So we're looking at having to replace the canopy.
Mike?
Roxanne, I just point out that that was the condition of the state grant that we got for the airport for this ridiculous canopy. The old canopy needed some work, but it was much better suited and more architecturally suited to the terminal itself. This canopy blocks the view of the whole building, so you can't see the nice architectural features of the airport terminal. I was sorry to see us have to put that in, but to understand that we had to do that in order to get state funding.
Shauna's hands up, Lee.
Shauna?
Good morning. I was wondering, I noticed that there was some damage in the tile in one of the corridors as you're leaving the airport in the middle of the walkway, and wanted to see if that was going to be repaired.
Yep, so we worked through the process. It was, the tile was actually put on an expansion joint of the concrete, which is supposed to, move when the concrete heaves or whatever through climate. We've worked through the process. We've gotten bidders. We've actually awarded it to somebody. It's just a scheduling thing. Apparently they don't have any help to get people here to do it. And they're projected to be in here the next couple weeks to replace all that. But yeah, it was a process even to get 3 quotes to get somebody to come in and fix it. So
I figured. Thank you.
Yep, we're on it. All right, so the master plan is another requirement from the FAA. It really, what it does is it lays out the project for the next 10 to 15 years of how the airport is going to expand and do what we need to do. So when we go in there to the FAA and ask for, money through the airport capital improvement program, they kind of know what's coming. So it's a plan that they require. Ours, last time we did one was 2012, and we've done all the projects in that plan. So this is just something that we have to do for funding down the road.
Okay.
Construction study and removal, again, it's an operational thing. We have, sorry about the scanner in the back, but we have trees that can grow into our area of the flight path. So we would study that. We would do some surveying to see whose property the trees are on, and then we would get a plan to go remove those trees or at least cut them down, cut them lower, so we don't have an aircraft restriction because of the tree height.
Randy?
I have a question just on general, on funding, federal funding and DOT grants. Do we have to do these projects and fund them ourselves first, or do we get the grants in? How does that Or do we just submit invoices as the project is moved?
I can answer that. So we apply for the grant, and reimbursement actually comes rather quickly. So the federal money, when we're getting federally reimbursed, the drawdown is quick, and it happened before the invoices are paid. So for the majority of the time, we don't have to upfront funds for these projects. There may be an occasion where finance has been great, and if we have to do that, they can. But the process is much quicker now. We usually can submit stuff into the federal system after finance signs off on it, and drawdowns happen, rather quickly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Parallel taxi rehab is mill and paving, and then one of the phases here would actually be a realignment of the taxiway. A new standard came out that you can't have direct access from an apron or a ramp to the runway, so we would actually have to move some taxiways, so the aircraft have to make two 90-degree turns before they can touch a runway. And the reason that is low visibility or something like that. We don't have an aircraft leave the ramp, drive straight across the runway while an aircraft is taking off. So there's some standard changes that this is a requirement through the FAA to shift these taxiways and then continue on repaving the rest of taxiway alpha. This is a part of the UAI grant that got cut out, the baggage claim carousel. We've been going back and forth. Instead of replacing the whole baggage claim, we're going to actually do a refurb of the system, but really to get it up in the working order, get the doors to be in compliant. So there are fire doors. If the fire alarm goes off, they're supposed to automatically close. So instead of replacing the whole thing, we're going to be doing a rehab.
Greg?
Sorry, I don't know who I was raising my hand to. Could we, maybe during the budget process or maybe another time at this committee, get a educational lesson on PFCs? And, it looks like there's a lot of things here that are the local share is coming from the PFC. But I'm just wondering, are there things that have dropped off, right? What's coming in, what's new, what's not, and sort of how that whole structure works? I think that would be helpful to maybe get an understanding before the budget season as we talk about this.
I think Roxanne was planning to bring a Airport 101 budget next month.
Even better. So hopefully we can include, and it'd just be interesting as we talk about new local share being added to the PFC. I'm assuming that there's some things that are dropping off from that process maybe-ish.
And I think I'm looking to Drew because I know that the county has covered quite a bit of that while we're trying to recover at the airport. So I don't know if we can all work together to try to come up with some numbers by July. Yeah.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Yes, Roxanne, Josh, I have a question about equipment that is provided by the airport. I've heard that there's a conveyor system that is used to unload packages and suitcases and those kinds of things that has been unoperational for some time, and that it's probably quite old and parts are hard to get. And are those of all the equipment, is that the responsibility of the county or the airport?
So our baggage conveyors inside the building are the responsibility of the airport, yes. If there is one that pulls up to an airplane, that is the carriers or the contract employees that would take the baggage off the airplane. If you're talking about that, that's the responsibility of the airline.
Okay, I've heard there's been a piece of equipment that's been out of commission for a few months, and it's very difficult to get the suitcases and whatnot to the carousel. So is that the responsibility of the contracting company?
You're talking about the baggage claim carousel? Yes. The parts have been on order for 2 months. For some reason, they can't get the door that you need to activate the system. So we're supposed to be getting that delivered, I'm hoping any days now. I've gotten taken off a couple Christmas card lists because of the store, so with the manufacturer, because they told us it was supposed to be delivered. It was only a 4 week lead time. It's been 2 months, and it is a critical door, and we're working through the process. And when aircraft come in, actually our staff has been over there helping unload those bags, so you know, our passengers can get their baggage a little quicker. So we're working through that process. Of course, parts and people who come in to install this stuff are tough to get anymore.
Thank you.
We're on to the...
Rehab general aviation apron, that's just, you know, mill and repave, just to stay up on the pavement. I think the last time it's been paved was 25 years ago. Of course, with the sun beating on blacktop all the time with no sealer, and, you know, it does start to deteriorate the blacktop, so you know, there's a fair amount of cracks out there. It's just a mill and repave.
Okay.
Runway lighting and signage rehab, we actually put this in so it went along with the reorganization of the taxiways. Again, we're trying to get into the LED world where less electrical use and cost for maintenance. And also, we have to change all of our taxiway signage because of a different standard change. They're getting rid of the Alpha Bravo Charlie Delta theory, and it'll be a letter and a numeric, so it'll be Alpha 1, Alpha 2, Alpha 3, because of the confusion of, I don't know what the confusion is, but. So a standard change across the country, and we have to abide by it through the FAA.
Greg has a question.
Didn't we just do some runway lighting LED upgrades, or was that on the taxiway, or?
That was the taxiways, yep.
Okay.
This will be runway and signage. We did all the taxiway lights 2 years ago, so now we'll be replacing all the signs and the runway lights.
Thank God for the FAA, huh? Said no one ever, but yeah. but all the funding, it looks like it's all FAA.
Yeah, a lot of these are requirements, so that's one thing they do. If they require it, they fund it.
Okay, we've got 2 departments down and 4 to go by the looks of things here. And I know we've got another full report coming for Credit Farms, so we'll keep moving here.
Yep. So
If you're all set with the airport, have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. The facilities restoration project, Ral's here.
Morning, Arel.
All your requests are also federally funded too?
No.
Good try.
All right, so the first one,
Facilities restoration.
facilities restoration. So that's an annual project. We have 1.4 million to address basically capital maintenance and repair projects, things such as elevator modernizations, roof replacements, flooring replacements, windows, things of that nature. At the bottom there, we indicate for next year, we're planning to do some flooring replacements, envelope improvements, electrical upgrades, roof replacements, and elevator modernizations with that funding. That was funding that Mike would remember years ago. Dan Winch suggested it because originally this funding would come out of our operating budget, and there really wasn't enough to cover it. I mean, on our operating side, we thought probably in those years we had 200,000. There's very little you can do these days for 200,000. I mean, a roof replacement, some of the ones we're looking at are close to $1 million, either the library or at the Public Works facility. So this funding has been great to address not only deferred maintenance, but also capital maintenance and repair projects. This next one is, you probably haven't heard much of this one. It's the Center of Government project that I've been involved in probably 20 years, and it looks like it's moving a lot farther now than it has in previous years. So at this point, as you know, schedule-wise, we have a RFQ that's out to solicit interest from design and engineering consultants, and those are expected in July 9th. So this, we will have a better idea of the cost of the project. I mean, 40 million is what we're indicating there, but we'll have a much better idea once we start with our consultants and start the schematic phase of the project to come with much better estimates early next year.
Mike?
Take Randy first.
I just have a question on the 2024 life-to-date appropriated fund balance. Is that what we've invested so far to acquire buildings and land and that kind of stuff? Or?
That includes the funding that we put in a reserve.
Oh, okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Mike?
Sent everybody an email last night about the Ithaca County, which is their center of government building up there. They've had a county office building for a lot of years, and it's in trouble with apparently asbestos after a huge storm damaged its roof. But there was at least one headline about a study of the building that was done in February with a consultant talking about a $53 million rehab and possible expansion of that building. And it's put a lot of questions in my mind, but the one for right now is 40 million realistic?
Rhetorical, right?
Good question.
I'll refer that to the Downtown Facilities Committee. Motion for that?
I didn't expect an answer.
Yeah. I mean, I can say that the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. I did try to do some research on that building. I don't know when it was built or how many square feet it is.
I'm guessing like in the 60s, maybe early 70s.
Yeah, which would explain the asbestos. I mean, this building that we would do would have none of that, but I don't know how large it is square footage-wise for 50 million. I mean, to do a renovation, if they're gutting it, without knowing really the extent of the renovations, it's hard to say. The 40 million was based on starting the project, construction 2 years from now. But as I said, at this point, I'm not going to go out on the ledge and say that that's the number. I'm going to work hard to make sure that it doesn't go above that. But as I said, at this point, it's a little premature to say that. I think we have a little bit of contingency in that number. And that number, just so you know, includes not only the center of government, but also the renovations that we would need to do at the old jail building, and a little bit here, and hopefully very minor at the main courthouse.
Greg?
I mean, there is an element in this process too where maybe we should build within our means, right? So if we realize we need to understand what's driving the overages, and if we need to pare down and not do those things, but just because it may cost more doesn't mean we have to spend more. So if we want to stick to 40 million and keep our guns there, then it's what we stick to.
Right. In the Downtown Facility Special Committee meeting, we discussed that we would bring, during schematic phase, decisions to the committee to make, because there's energy. I mean, if we go all out on energy improvements, yes, it's going to increase the cost. So we're going to come back to the committee to get them to weigh in on, if we need to value engineer the project to keep it within that budget.
So green facilities is, I'm trying to keep it rolling. Lee.
Thanks.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so green facilities, we are about to complete phase 1 of that, which impacted almost every county building. The most noteworthy of those improvements were geothermal, full geothermal at the Public Works facilities, which is, we think, the first in New York State for at least a county Public Works facility. We also did upgrade at the mental health building, replaced all of the heat pumps with a variable refrigerant flow system, which it's been great. And then at the library, we replaced all of the rooftop units, 6 of those. So those are probably the major FIMs, we call them facility improvement measures. The others were LEDs at all our buildings, envelope improvements, water conservation measures, electrical inspections on all our transformers, replaced many transformers. And so those are the noteworthy ones for the phase 2 that we're looking at doing. And our hope is that we will get the funding to start that next year. We would be looking at geothermal at the Emergency Response Center. That's a building that's approaching its end of design life on the HVAC mechanical system. So what I indicated, I think, to this committee before is that either we move forward with the project to do geothermal, or we move forward to replace the existing mechanical systems in kind. But either way, we would have to look at replacing those systems because of end of design life. Also, it would include replacing the boilers at the Human Services building that also are beyond end of life. And then it would also include some solar at the Health Department, at Public Works, and at Human Services building. So that's a total of $7.3 million. But Terry is here, and so there are grants that will bring that number down to, is it 3.145?
Yes. Yeah, 3.145.
These numbers changed a lot since the April meeting when we went through the options.
No.
Yes. Excuse me, what was the question?
Have these numbers changed a lot since we
No, when we presented to the committee, it was similar. I mean, there's been some slight tweaks, but for the most part, we're still head on. And I'll just say that we are also looking at a grant opportunity in the CFA for the geothermal at the emergency response building as well. And we've made it through the first round of the pare down for the earmarks process with Senator Schumer. So we are included in his suggested earmarks for the geothermal project at emergency response as well. And so each of those are worth about $2 million. So we're hopeful we'll get one of those.
That's good news. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. Public safety.
Yeah, this is another project. This one actually I've been involved in for 25 years. Schematic design after schematic design, study after study. As you know, we're currently involved in short-term improvements at that building. We're almost done. We're about 75 complete on that one, and that project was actually to address facility deficiencies that were needed because we couldn't wait, let's say, another 5 years to do the big project. So that is ongoing. We've got really one area to complete, which is really improvements to the kitchen and the dorm areas. So that is $4.75 million. The larger project, we've presented several options. The one option that seems to have been favored by at least the sheriff and some legislators and committees is the one that includes pods. And those tend to be, pre-manufactured, basically set on site, but it allows for direct supervision. So now the Commission of Corrections that oversees the jails would not allow a direct supervision, which is what we have currently at the Public Safety Building jail. It would have to be, I'm sorry, direct supervision. Right now they have linear, so basically they don't have a corrections officer inside the cell areas. They basically just patrol that. So the pod is preferred by corrections officer, and believe it or not, it's actually safer for both corrections officers and inmates, and it's preferred. And some of you may have visited jails in the past, and so that's really the preferred option, is option 6. So I think we have a number, but it's outside of the 5-year. I think it's in 2029 when we're looking at proposing starting the construction. However, my recommendation was to start schematic design, to really give us a good idea of what that cost number will be. And
I did not include it. I was getting ready to follow that up. So there was, it was kind of the end of the conversation, and it didn't get added to this, but there will be, we have put money aside in reserve to cover the cost of the schematic design for the public safety building. So I will be adding that to this PAR form and to the budget information when it comes to you for the expanded budget. But it'll be, we have $1 million set aside. We don't think it'll go quite that high, but that's how much has been put into reserves for that purpose.
Thanks. Greg?
So will that be for 2025, that
Yes.
million?
Yes.
Okay, and then so the 5.5 million in 26 is for what?
that would be the balance of design, although that's a little high for the balance. I think that incorporates some of the schematic. I think initially it had been put in all 26 for the design, but then I said we really need to, from discussions in the past, that we really need to do the schematic next year.
Yeah.
To get a good idea of what the cost is going to be, and really to narrow down what that design is going to be.
We're actually recommending that we develop a second PAR form so that this doesn't get, right now it's confusing. We're mixing terms. So we've asked Arel and to do that, but we just asked him yesterday. So you might get another PAR form next month.
So the 2024 money is for the sort of the retrofitting, upfitting of the current facility, and then 25, 26 money would be for new design, schematic, engineering. Right. And we have $1 million currently sort of in reserve, or we have the 5.5 in reserve?
We definitely have $1 million in reserve. We have some other funds in reserve that are intended for public safety. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you what that is.
Okay, all right. So this form will get updated.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then just to explain, this PAR form originally was for the larger project. That's what we were advancing a few years ago. But then since that was pushed further out, then we use the same PAR form to say, okay, we'll just do the short-term improvements. And so it does get confusing. But if you read the narrative, the initial part of the narrative talks about the larger project.
Okay. And then there's only one more. Oh, yes, only one more that comes to this committee, and that was the emergency shelter. And Arel's name got put on it, but I'll just speak to this a little bit, that we are in the process of putting out an RFQ for the project manager and development. So that is actively, I think it was just sent to finance today for review. These are estimated numbers that were given to us early on in the process about what this might cost. So, and then of course Kit Caphart would be the program manager for this project. But so there's a lot of unknown variables with this. This is the best estimate we have at present. I'm not sure that if Arel wants to speak to it at all, because he's helped us a lot in, talking it through, but not the area that I think he's planning to spend a lot of time.
Okay. Randy?
We put $1 million in reserve as well for this project.
I'm sorry?
Did we put $1 million in reserve for this project so far? In the capital plan, I thought? Maybe just in the capital plan.
In the capital plan, we had there's a plan for, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Anything
Anything
else?
further, Norm?
But actually, Terry just reminded me, I didn't put Green Fleet. And so we do have one more, and it's Green Fleet Management that falls under your,
So, yeah, so just some quick background on this. So it originally started as a capital fund to provide supplemental funds when departments were buying electric vehicles. A couple years ago, when we passed the new iteration of the Green Fleet policy, we centralized fleet purchasing, and we just started to use this Green Fleet Capital Fund as the capital fund to purchase vehicles. And so this fund now purchases vehicles for all departments except for the Department of Social Services and the whole health, but mostly the public health department version of it. And that's because both of those departments have to have the vehicle purchases reflected in their operating budget in order for them to reclaim state and federal funding. But otherwise, this capital budget reflects the purchase of not just electric vehicles, but all vehicles. And to be honest with you, the purchase of electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid vehicles is actually a smaller portion of that, because so many of the vehicles that we're buying are sheriff's vehicles for the most part. So that's the plan moving forward. Last year we started leasing some vehicles through Enterprise. We've taken that into this year. We just received our first few sheriff's vehicles that we're leasing. So far we've been pleased with how that program's going. We're going to give it another couple of years and then kind of look at the finances of it to see if it did end up adding to the savings that they were projecting. But yeah, I don't need to prolong it too much more. It's just a capital fund to buy vehicles and lease vehicles.
Thanks, Terry. Does that cover?
I think we have them all, yeah.
We don't have a lot of departments comparatively that report to this committee, but we certainly have
A lot of
expensive
projects.
investment that comes with those that do. Is there a spreadsheet that may capture what's in the pipeline from this committee? I can't even begin to look at the bottom line number here. It's
Sure.
many millions tens of millions of dollars that is projected to become a part of the capital program or continue in it. And some of it is in there and has updated numbers.
Yeah, I can send a summary if that's what yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentations. Randy?
I have a general question, Norma, on bonding and how we're looking at that. Has administration considered bonding a lot more things over a period of time as opposed to coming out of our funds? I'm just curious how are you looking at bonding and whether that's something we should be looking at more versus just always funding it out of our taxpayer money.
Yeah, we are working closely with our finance department and making decisions. When we have to look at the fund balance and see where we are. But we're definitely taking a look at what can be sustained under the parameters that we've been given by the legislature within the capital program. And if it's not sustainable, then we're looking at how we can either leverage bonding or bonds or bans, or if there's enough to use cash. Now, we have planned to use quite a bit of cash over the next few years, and you'll see that in some of these projects. For example, when we talk about the downtown facilities, or the facilities restoration projects are relying on $1.4 million for the next 3 or 4 years of fund balance, and so we're kind of counting our chickens. So what the point there is, we're looking at all of those because you have to look at that holistically. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the only other thing that I would report is that the legislature approved us to move forward with a contracts and procurement software package application, and we are actively working with this group to kind of build that out. And I think everybody's really looking forward to having that centralized system to be able to track both the contracts and procurement.
Thanks, Norma. Anything further from county administration?
No further report.
Thanks for being with us. Jeff, let me ask you, I hate to do this to you, but we're scheduled for 2 presentations for weights and measures and highway department update. Would it be all right to defer those to the July meeting and then go straight to the Pleasant Grove discussion? You'd rather I move that one, wouldn't you?
Those out.
Can we save weights and measures if we have time after
I just want to introduce Heather, though. She did come today to do the presentation and update. This committee hasn't had a chance to be formally introduced.
Lee, could we just do Craddock first and then see how much time we've got?
Why don't we do that? So you can hang with us, Heather. Welcome. We picked a good day for you to be here.
I did think this could be a longer meeting when the capital plan got added to it, too. I was like, well, that could be it.
I think you've got people from Barton and Lejudas that are remotely coming in to us, and we've been having them in a holding pattern for a little while. So
For sure, yeah, they are online. I did speak with them, letting them know. They had a little problem with volume, but I think they got that figured out. Yeah, today going to discuss the report for the record on Pleasant Grove Road, Craddock Farm Drive intersection, Town of Ithaca, Tompkins County. I think it's important to start with a little bit of a review first. I think most of everyone here is somewhat aware. I'm not going to go all the way back, but at the point where the MOA was drafted, the original MOA by the town, Cornell, and the county, the language that they utilized in the MOA that's important to remember is highlighted here, and I'll read it for you. Reaffirm, Cornell, the county, and the town hereby reaffirm their collective desire to realign the intersection of Craddock Farm Drive and Pleasant Grove Road to direct traffic more readily to Cornell campus. So we all agree that was the goal, the initial goal with the memorandum of understanding between the 3 parties. So quite a few, we had COVID, we had some time in there. At which point the county was presented moving forward, really the first, I'll say, alternative that we were presented with was the T intersection, which some of the configurations of that I had some concern about. Started looking into the data, looking into the traffic flow. It really started to not make sense to us. The majority of the traffic really did prefer going down into Forest Home, just like everyone is aware, and a much less ratio of people that are turning and going onto Craddock Farm Drive onto Cornell campus. We felt at that time the idea that people would choose to go a different route that they were going no matter what the configuration would be unlikely, and that anytime you look at a transportation project and various alternatives, one of the alternatives is very considered strongly, and that's called the no alternative. So you'll see that term used throughout. The no alternative is what, based on internally looking at traffic flows through the area, through the intersection, various items, we felt that it was important to, it made sense to not do anything and go with the no alternative. This was internally. This was shared with the town of Ithaca. The town of Ithaca was in agreement to that. It's nothing that the highway department is doing on its own. It's definitely a collection throughout all of this process, a collection of county and town representatives that are involved with these things. We all felt that it would be important, even though that we felt the no alternative was appropriate, that it was a good indicator and to gain public trust and public interest to not necessarily accept it the way that was, that we were to look for and hire an independent third-party opinion to determine whether some realignment of the Craddock Farm Drive would better redirect traffic away from Forest Home. So we drafted an RFP collectively through town and county representation. We submitted the RFP. We had 2 submittals. We had Labella, who's also been very involved in the project with Cornell, and Barton and LaJudas. Collectively, again, we selected Barton and LaJudas to provide us with the study, which I'm here to talk about. So, the traffic study, and I'm just going to go through and read some of the portions of it, and I've got it highlighted here, but it's really a good in-depth study, and I'm really just kind of pointing out what the findings are, but there is a lot more depth to it, and I urge you all to really take a look at it. And if you have any questions or any concerns or anything you hear today or anytime afterwards or questions, I'm happy to respond and reflect on the study. And I know Barton LaJudas is also here today and willing to help if there's any confusion about any parts of the study. The study starts, section 1, it's existing study, intersection conditions. They kind of go through that process. The section 2 is a background. They talk about the MOU between the 3 parties, affirms each entity's desire to realign the intersection to better redirect traffic away from Cornell, or away from Forest Home. They talk about existing conditions. They go through some capacity analysis, some of the traffic counts that we did prior to the study and earlier in the process that we provided to the consultants. We, one of the parts that I want to read to make clear, this is in the existing section, and it's look at the intersection as it exists today. It says, based on the performance metrics and historic data provided by these prior analysis, the existing intersection configuration is operating at above acceptable levels of service and does not present a history of crashes warranting corrective measures. With regards to safety, the existing intersection approaches maintain appropriate pedestrian advanced warning signage for the uncontrolled pedestrian crossing on the southbound approach of Pleasant Grove Road, in addition to a speed hump present on the northbound approach. There's a traffic calming speed hump on the northbound approach. Then the study gets into some intersection alternative analysis. They look at the T intersection. They talk about that. They talk about the traffic circle, and then they make this note, based on empirical data, it is a minority of users that access Cornell University via Craddock Farm Road. From this standpoint, realigning Pleasant Grove Road to direct traffic towards the campus would not serve the majority of vehicles traversing the intersection. Reconfiguring the alignments of Pleasant Grove Road and Craddock Farm Drive or constructing an alternative form of intersection control would not have the potential desired result of mitigating traffic flows through the Forest Home community or alter latent traffic patterns. They go on to state the most direct access to these portions of the campus is to utilize Pleasant Grove Road and Forest Home Drive. Drivers organically will select the shortest route to their destination, and there currently is not an alternative route which provide a similar travel time compared to utilizing Pleasant Grove and Forest Home. Trying to be quick, I'm sorry. I think it's important to mention these aspects of the report. The applicability and safety benefits of roundabouts has been developing field and continued research evaluations by transportation professions. This is about specific to roundabouts or traffic circle, you also hear it referred to. Recent 2023 research findings by the National Cooperative Highway Research Program, that's a mouthful, has been published guide for roundabouts, which was sponsored by the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials, AASHTO, hear that a lot, and Federal Highway, FHWA. This is a documented history of safety concern at the study intersection, but the lack of quantifiable crashes does not mean the intersection cannot be made safer via this alternative. They're talking about the traffic circle. The provision of a roundabout has a potential to improve safety by reducing the number of conflict points. So there is some aspect of safety improvement to traffic circles being at this point, but they're saying that it doesn't necessarily reconfigure the traffic pattern, and that was the goal of the MOU. I wanted to get that. And there's some more about traffic counts, which are less than desirable, that I will share. FHWA has historically provided guidance on implementation of roundabouts as a form of intersection control. The guide offers principles of good design as well as indicates potential trade-offs related to roundabout implementation. And there's a couple bullets. Injury crash rates for more vehicle occupants are generally lower, although the proportion of single vehicle crashes is typically higher. Bicycles and pedestrians are involved in a relatively higher proportion of injury accidents than they are at other intersections. So just want to highlight the multimodal considerations, and that is part of what the study was looking at. And this intersection, as you can imagine, is adjacent to Cornell campus. It has a lot of pedestrians, a lot of bicycle traffic that goes through there. Additionally, they add the ADA roundabout from an ADA perspective is that it can be a detriment to blind or visually impaired. So we get to the construction of a roundabout alternative is appealing for its ability to implement traffic calming and potential safety benefits for motorists and pedestrians, bicycles alike. Of note, there is no existing data that indicates there is an inherent safety risk with the existing intersection configuration. Implementing roundabout results in a form of intersection control in which all movements are given equal priority. This is not a preferred form of intersection control for scenarios in which there is a high volume major street and a low volume minor street, such is the case with Pleasant Grove and Craddock Farm Drive. And I am skipping through a lot of stuff, so I do urge you to read. So there's another one here that says, based on historic traffic patterns and safety analysis, there is not a symptomatic issue at the study intersection which engineering judgment would justify needs correcting. And then I'm on the last page, final statement of the study. For a cost-benefit standpoint, maintaining the existing intersection configuration best achieves the study objectives while minimizing costs and impacts to the public and project stakeholders. Those are highlights in the report. That is, I'm bringing this to the committee for the record only. And if you have any questions or any follow-up, I'm happy to answer. If I can answer them now, I will. And like I said, Barton LaJudas is also here to answer any questions.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yep.
Let me acknowledge Rod Howe, our Town of Ithaca Supervisor, has joined us. Thanks for being here. And does the committee have questions they'd like to ask of Jeff or Barton and LaJudas? Mike.
Just trying to figure out where we are here. It sounds to me like we are not going to ask Cornell University to build a roundabout. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be correct. There would be against the findings of the study if we were to put a roundabout there to try and achieve what the goals were.
Thank you.
Randy.
Just to back up a little bit. So was Craddock Farm Road, was that a new road when the development was, or was that already there?
It's always been there.
Okay. And in this discussion, when they were developing that area, Cornell, this is where this MOU came in because they felt there'd be more traffic on Craddock Farm Road.
I believe that might, I wasn't part of all those conversations to find out the initial reason for that being as part of their certificate of occupancy, and that's where that comes from when they worked with the town directly. It was important enough to be added in there. The MOA states the redirection. It doesn't state the amount of traffic growth, but it could be the case.
In the MOU, how was it stated that Cornell would pay for this? Would it be only pay for it if it was, who made what determination? Who determines what, if anything should be done or not?
So it is all paid for by Cornell under the agreement. The agreement has some language where if the project becomes on hold or no longer makes sense, I'm not sure the exact language, that the three parties should get together and agree.
And then if the roundabout was built, it would then become the responsibility of the county? And we would have to maintain it?
Correct.
Okay, and you're saying that the cost to maintain a roundabout is higher than a regular intersection?
I think it would likely be quite a bit higher with all the curbing and added aspects to a roundabout.
Okay.
Yes.
And personally, I like roundabouts, so I just wanted to state that.
Yeah, I've come to like them myself, yeah.
Yep.
They have their place.
I'm no fan.
Shauna, we see you there.
Thank you. I just want to thank the neighbors that have come out for Forest Home. I definitely appreciate their passion to making their neighborhood safer, and I hear their concerns about it being more walkable and safe for kids to ride bikes and adults to ride bikes. So I think that's going to be a future conversation on how we can try and do that and possibly get some grants. I also, you know, in looking at this and talking with the neighbors, you know, I think all of us were very open to the roundabout conversation. And one of the conversations that we had with the town of Ithaca and with the neighbors is that if the roundabout was actually going to detract traffic from going into Forest Home, then that would have probably been the best option. But, you know, because that wasn't going to be the clear end goal of a roundabout, it really didn't make sense. And the existing intersection has not caused harm. One of the conversations that I had with a neighbor is the fact that whenever you're a pedestrian or on a bike, many times the roundabout can become blurred for the pedestrian or the biker, and it can become dangerous. So, I mean, I think at this point, you know, we're trying to cause no harm. We want to make that intersection as safe as possible. And I just wanted to thank Jeff, Rod Howe and his staff, as well as Barton and LaJudas. You know, this was not an easy decision. I feel like, you know, this has gone on for probably longer than all of us wanted it to go on. You know, but I'm glad that we did the extra study. And I do believe at this point there is consensus on how to move forward. So thank you all.
Thank you, Shauna. Greg?
Yeah, as somebody who drives that direction pretty much weekly going from the side of town I live to the side of town where I work, and having done that when I lived on the other side of town and worked at Cornell, I know very much what you're sort of speaking of and the concerns in that area. And I would like to see, you know, if this roundabout wasn't the solution, how or what role the county could play in the next steps to making sure that we ensure the safety of that community. I think any time that I think we have been responsive in this process, right, to the needs and concerns of that community. But I'd like to see if there's anything else that we can do or how we can continue to be intermunicipal partners with the town and ensuring that we keep that area safe, because there's quite a bit of traffic. There's that kind of odd blind corner when you come around to go to the to the bridge and some challenges with the bridge and all the bridges in that area. So it is a relatively congested place, and I'm empathetic of the challenges that community faces, but would like to see if there's some role or some way we can support the town and that community to ultimately achieve their goals. I do also think that directing traffic through Cornell poses a significant safety risk because of the nature of how people interact with the streets at Cornell and motor vehiclists at Cornell. So I also think that poses a challenge to redirect through Cornell. So no perfect solution here, but I'd like to make sure that we remain connected to this issue to try to create a safe as possible path for everybody.
Well said. Susan.
I want to echo some of what Greg said, because I've lived on South Hill for 30 years and I've used that route to get from, South Hill over to the other side. And one of the things that's happened, of course, is that the population has increased and so traffic has increased. And I remember when that area was not utilized by Cornell at all, so it was very peaceful and quiet. And as I drive, I watch the graduate students with their families try to cross the street or bicycle, so I understand exactly what's happening. And I would agree, I hope that there is, I kept thinking, is there some kind of education program that we could do? But the fact is that as our population grows, the traffic is going to continue to increase, and so I think if we can find a solution, that's good, that would be wonderful.
It does seem to be the broader issue, how to divert or reroute traffic, and we haven't got to that answer yet, but there's certainly a lot here to consider. Further comments from the committee? Any perspective from the town, Rod? Yeah.
You can have a seat at the table too.
I don't have much to add. We've already said to Forest Home residents that we do want to have a meeting sometime later this fall once the Safe Streets for All information comes in, and certainly would involve the county to figure out ways to make it safer from a pedestrian and bicyclist perspective as you're going through Forest Home. I don't know that it's been noted yet that we're also working with Cornell on better signage. So for those who are trying to get to campus, to make it clear, turn here. So that's in the works, and I think that will help people who, especially a couple times a year, when they don't know where they're, they just don't know. So I think better signage indicating turn on to Credit Farm Drive for those Cornell folks visiting a couple times a year will be important as well. I think Jeff stated everything well. Jeff, one thing that might be good to just clear the record about is there's been some concern that the contract we signed with BNL constricted what they studied. So if you could just address that, that would be good to clear that matter up as well. And I will say that the town and county have had several discussions since this new report came out, including 3 department heads from the town. We all concur on what you're being recommended for today. And we've had a few meetings with Forest Home. So there's been several conversations that have happened since the report came out.
Yeah,
Thanks.
if I may,
Rod, yes.
Yeah, if I may, Rod, that's a good point. Some of the, I'll say, comments from the Forest Home community in reviewing of the Barton and LaJudas submittal that they submitted to our RFP had some language in it, and I'll read you the language. It's, I do have it right here. So I would let Barton and LaJudas speak to this if they need to after, and my sense is when so none of this is included in our RFP. We weren't looking to restrict them by use of right-of-way or expansion of the road footprint at all. But in the submittal that Barton LaJudas, Forest Home individuals had pointed out that they feel that we somehow, by the agreement, restricted their ability to look at other alternatives. And the language is, Barton LaJudas shall evaluate proposed impacts to right-of-way utilities and shall design alternatives within existing right-of-way to mitigate right-of-way mapping, acquisition costs, and scheduling impacts. I feel that, yes, the statement is in our agreement with Barton LaJudas as to the services they would provide. I think that our group did not recognize that that statement was in there, and we would have probably removed it had we caught it. We were mostly looking at making sure that what we were asking them to do was included, not necessarily what we weren't asking them to do. I can make a statement very clearly that this was not impacted. This statement did not impact any of their aspects of their report in any way whatsoever. And simply the idea with that is that they reviewed all the alternatives the same throughout the report, and there's absolutely no mention of any kind of impacts to any right-of-way. Right-of-way does not get discussed anywhere in their report, and had they just looked at it in that very narrow way, it would have been very obvious with their findings. If you had any other questions on that, I'd be happy to follow up.
No, thanks for addressing that. Matt, we've kept you online here for a while. Is there anything you'd like to add to this? We appreciate it.
Yeah, so I apologize. I'm actually running late right now for an appointment, but Alex Currie, who was the author of the report, is online. I'll let him talk to both any scope and findings issues that you guys have. He's certainly he's capable and willing to do so. So I apologize, but I do have to run.
Yeah,
so, Alex, you're on the phone, and maybe you could answer any your thoughts on the scope issues, or if they come up.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Alex, I don't know if we have any questions for you or not, but we appreciate you hanging with us for this period. I see one hand. Fernando.
Thank you. I may be the only person that was participating in the Northern Cornell Gateway project about 20 years ago, which is when a lot of these discussions on this topic kind of originated. The impacts of traffic in Forest Home were already evident at that point, and were the reason we were having those discussions. So I'll keep it short, but a little history. At the beginning, they were talking, first of all, Cornell, the town, Village of Ithaca Heights, and Tompkins County were at the table, as well as the council. We were talking about diverting traffic at the A-lot, above or north of Pratt Farm Road. And the idea, and at that time Cornell was participating, is that people coming from the north would park at A-lot, get on a bus, or get on a bike, or move to a different mode to reach the rest of the campus, wherever they're going. There was a lot of talk about Cornell helping incentivize people moving away from the car, just leaving the car at the north end of the campus and then moving in a different mode, and also of inconveniencing or making the turn into Forest Home a secondary movement, so that anybody wanting to go to campus would prioritize making that right-hand turn. There was no talk of roundabouts. My only concern with the study that was just described is that it's pretty classical, focusing on roads, and the intersection is not broken. We know that. The issue here is the impact on Forest Home, not the impact on the intersection. The intersection works, and there's very few accidents, and nobody's questioning that. The point is, the intersection, as it exists and has existed now for historically, is having a detrimental impact on the residents of Forest Home. So we need to find other ways of incentivizing traffic movement away from the intersection and disincentivizing traffic into Forest Home, which could include and should include restricting size of vehicles. I've seen, everybody has stories of the large trucks stuck in Forest Home. We should find ways of keeping those trucks from going in there. But beyond that, making that route a little less convenient so that an alternative so that drivers can consider an alternative to going through Forest Home. Right now, it's just too easy and too comfortable, and has been. And traffic studies will tell you that everything's working fine, but the reason we're doing this is not because the cars are not moving, it's because of the impact on the community. Thank you.
Fernando, thank you for that context and perspective. Anything further? Questions? Thank you, Jeff. We've got a little bit of time if Heather does want to give us that presentation, and then a few procedural items. Randy? Before we close out, we'll take just a few minutes more, if that's all right. Committee?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Well, welcome.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for hanging around.
Oh, no problem.
Close or minimize.
Okay. Lee, well, are you ready?
I am.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I didn't say earlier that Lisa is going to be writing a letter to Cornell releasing them from that contract.
Okay.
Do we have to switch so they can see the PowerPoint to the screen?
She has to be logged into the.
Yeah, I think it already is. We did.
Hey, Jeff, would you repeat the introduction, staff member?
Yeah, I want to welcome and introduce Heather Chappelle. About 6 months ago you started now?
Yeah, I'm going on my 9th month.
Yeah, going on her 9th month working as Weights and Measures, Director of Weights and Measures for Tompkins County.
Welcome, Heather.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I just wanted to put together a little PowerPoint to let everyone know that what the Weights and Measures Department does, what we're expected to do. Just share some information. Little history. On March 2nd, 1799, the U.S. Congress enacted the first Weights and Measures Law. Article 16, Section 181 of the New York State Ags and Markets Law states that there shall be a director of weights and measures in every county. All weights and measures departments promote equity, fairness, and all consumer transactions involving weight, measure, count, or pricing. We are mandated by the state to inspect devices each year. We're responsible for annual inspections of all commercially used devices in our county. These are fee-based inspections, and the fees are set by the New York State Ags and Markets. Some of those devices are computing scales, pre-packed scales, prescription, livestock scales, coal, asphalt, and aggregate hoppers, milk tanks, petroleum pumps, and meters and linear measures. We are also required by the state and the DOT at times to witness third-party inspections. A few examples of that would be jet refuelers at the airport, large vehicle scales at Cargill, Tompkins County Recycling Materials Management, and Casella, just to name a few. I recently witnessed a third-party inspection at Heidelberg Asphalt in Lansing, and that is the picture to the left.
That's what?
There's a picture in the PowerPoint.
Of what? I'm sorry.
That's of the Heidelberg Asphalt facility.
Oh, it measures the asphalt that's being given?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yep. Just to note, the third-party inspections, we do not charge a fee for that. We just have to witness them to make sure that the company that comes in, the third party, that their weights and measures are within standards. We also do non-commercial inspections. We offer non-commercial inspections for local schools, Cornell Wrestling, Perkins Funeral Home and Crematory, Dryden Police Department, Tompkins County Sheriff Department, and other local municipalities. And these are also done for free. The inspection seals. So next time that you are in line at a gas station or grocery store, take a minute to notice the yellow or blue stickers on the scales or the gas pumps. They indicate the date that they were tested. Most importantly, it guarantees that you're getting what you were paying for. And each inspection is done on I can inspect something on January 1st, and then it's good until the following January. It's not like a car inspection. It doesn't have to be done the following January. It just has to be done within that following year. So new things in 2024. I am sharing a seasonal employee with the highway department. There isn't always a lot of workload for 2 employees, but it does help to have the extra set of hands during the summer months. I have started participating in the petroleum quality program, the price accuracy program, and the package checking program. The price accuracy program is actually what my seasonal employee is working on mainly. He goes to various stores. They let him log in and carry their scan guns around, check the prices on the shelf to make sure they match the inventory. It's gone fairly well. He's done probably 57 inspections. Most stores are pass. The ones that don't, we work with them to bring them up to speed on, the inaccuracies, and everyone's pretty receptive of the program. In 2023, as Jeff stated, I haven't been here a full year yet, but I started in September. The blue lines were the projected inspections. The orange is what I was able to finish by the end of the year. It states the various places the establishments that we go to at the bottom. Now in 2024, it's the same thing. Well, I will go back one. I had about a 33% completion rate for 2023. That included the vacancy that there was. Now in 2024, I am on pace to reach the projected completion rate of 100%. I'm at about 53% right now. This has to be updated from when I submitted it.
So you'd like to hit them all once a year?
Yeah. We're mandated by the state to inspect all of them by the year, each year. These are just a few pictures of some of the inspections that we do. The fuel pump inspection, we go to every gas station in Tompkins County, and we have to take samples of the fuel. We dump that fuel back into the holding tanks. That just ensures that the equipment is running right and that you are actually getting 5 gallons of gas. The next one is the checkout scales. Like I said, is supermarkets, Walmart, Walgreens, Walgreens too, but Wegmans. The staging area for the fuel pump inspections in the lower left. It doesn't look like much, but people do, sometimes they pay attention to the cones. A lot of times it can be a little crazy if you're in town doing them. We do go to livestock auction scales. We do some vintage scales. We see all kinds of scales. The baggage scales at the Ithaca Tompkins International Airport as well. And I just want to thank you for letting me come here today and introduce myself. And if you have any questions or anything.
If you here.
Thank you. That was really educational. I appreciate it. I saw the Cornell wrestling. So is it there?
Well, normally the coach will reach out. It's just a common courtesy to go up and verify that their scales are accurate for the season.
Awesome.
Yeah, yep.
Mike. Thank you for giving this presentation to us, and welcome.
Thank you.
I was wondering, do we do any testing of timing devices?
So the timing devices are not mandated by the state to do. They are recommended, obviously, to make sure everyone gets what you're paying for. Recently, the law was passed that we no longer have to, obviously they're not mandated anyway, but we don't have to do them at all now.
Really?
Yeah.
Timing devices might be like when you put money in a meter at a car wash or something like that to make sure you get the amount of time.
Right, the laundromats, the car washes, tanning beds, that sort of thing.
Tanning beds?
Yeah, tanning beds, yeah.
I don't use them, so I don't know.
They're just some of the establishments.
I'm surprised they would change and not require that.
Yeah, they just recently, last week I attended the New York State Weights and Measures Conference in Syracuse for the week, and that's when they had brought it up that it had been passed, that it's no longer a requirement.
Tompkins County has a few additional requirements for your office that aren't necessarily required in other areas of the state. Is that correct? Bulk food packaging, that type of thing?
Right, that would be the package checking, that part, correct.
That was an initiative that's somewhat unique to Tompkins, is my understanding.
Right. I haven't done a lot with that rate at this time, but I will be getting into that more. I do have a New York State regional representative that comes down and trains, and he'll reach out to me and say, I have next week free, I can come down to help you, give you a hand. So it's always good to have that resource and the training.
I'll throw a question at Jeff. A year ago now, maybe a little longer, we had some concerns about capacity and ability to keep up with things and making the changes, incorporated it into your department. Your perspective?
You know, Heather's doing a great job, and as we expected, that a lot of the what you would be administrative type work that is included with weights and measures has remained there, but we do have that support aspect on the admin side. Our ability within our department to say, as needed, when she needs a hand with something, she has mentioned, a seasonal worker that is flexible and can work around whatever she needs to do. It's good to have another set of eyes at the inspections, like at the gas station and things like that, safety, and it's going well. We have talked about adding a position based on the outlook of the future budget. We're not thinking it's a really good year for that. There's other priorities. The status quo is working. It may be a little better to have someone more full-time that was able to take over in an absence or something, or do some of it, or be cross-trained, which would, I think, require more of a full-time look. And then it gets into making sure that person would be busy, you know, for a full 50 week work weeks, and 40-hour work week and things like that, so that we had a full-time position. And we're looking at all that. We're not quite there yet, but the seasonal's, I think, helping a lot, and Heather's organizational skills is also a big asset with all of that.
Well, it's good to have that on our radar and know that you're reviewing that as time goes on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Heather.
Oh, no problem, thank you. I
Thanks,
appreciate
Jeff.
it.
Thank you.
Good presentation.
Want me to go next month? I can.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, that's fine.
Have you do an update on the Highway Department next month?
Yeah, that's relevant. That's not a problem at all.
Right in the middle of the construction season.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
Yeah, in the interest of time. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Susan, did we have anything from downtown facilities?
The next meeting is, actually, I can't remember, in a couple of weeks, but not yet.
Okay.
No new news.
Thank you. Mike, anything on transportation, or Fernando you want to bring forward?
I would defer to Fernando, but we did have the ITCTC Joint Policy and Planning Committee meeting this week.
I don't have any specific things to add. At the meeting, we did process a number of Federal Transit Administration amendments and modifications to the Transportation Improvement Program, which helped facilitate a number of different projects. But we continue to work on our long-range plan, and we'll be reporting on that repeatedly or later in other meetings. Thank you.
I think the DOT representative told us that they're just getting ready to try to start the project for the Route 13 and 34, but there was some small technical hang-up they're waiting to get resolved.
That apparently was solved. Yeah, they wanted to make sure they didn't conflict with a city utility, water utility project.
Right.
But that has been solved, and yeah, we can expect construction. This is the repaving of Route 13 through the heart of the city, Meadow, Fulton, and some of the crossroads, Seneca and Cayuga. That will be repaved, sidewalks will be rebuilt. It's going to be a pretty significant impact to city residents and anybody traveling through that area.
Okay, thanks, Fernando. Thanks, Mike. We have an appointment today, the Air Services Board. Mark Ierly. Do we need to take action on that, or is that information?
I think we have to move it.
We do have to move that.
I'll move it.
Mike, moved to second by Greg. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. There were a number of budget adjustments and transfers for information included in the package. Unless there's questions on those, we'll move to the minutes approval. Moved by Greg. Second by Susan. Any discussion, corrections? If not, all in favor? Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Any further business before the committee this morning? We covered a lot of ground, so to speak, there, but thank you. And more for us to digest as time goes on.
As Barbara Mink used to say, a very meaty meeting.
Thank you. We'll stand adjourned.